Okay, so hello, welcome to another lecture in this course where we'll quickly exactly show you how to successfully and correctly download Python for your computer to be successfully able to develop in a Python. So as you can see, I'm currently on the official page of Python. You can read to the documentations if you want, looking for specific releases, some sponsors. You can see licenses, sources, alternative implementations, and history. So you can see different various documentations and some stuff, some background stuff about Python. So don't worry, I will link this official download page of Python in this course. So down below you can find an article where you can just click on it. I think it's called like official Python download link or something, or official Python download website or something like this. So just head over to here and then you will automatically be leaded or linked to this website right here. So the browser will automatically open if you click on the link, and then you will be successfully right here at the same window as I am. So before we downloading Python, we will cover Python 3 in this course. This is because we will download the newest version right here. But if you're more familiar, or if you are someone who already developed in Python 2 and think that they're more familiar with it and just want to start over and maybe recognize your knowledge or something like this, you can still use Python 2. Of course, this course is made for Python 3, so for the newest Python, but all in all, you can also use some older ones. There's no much of differences, but all in all, I would recommend you to use the newest version of Python 3. So you can see, you can look for some specific releases. In my case, I will download the Python 3.10.1, which is currently released at December the 6th. So which is the basically the newest version of Python, which I will use for this course. And right here you can also see all the Python versions, which have some releases, maintenance status, end of support, and release schedule. In this case, you can see the end of support ends in 2026, which is a long time. It's about still 5 or soon 4 years. You can still have the end of support right here. You can see it currently has bug fixes, but all in all, Python 3 is the best one. But still we can now start downloading. So what you will basically do, you will automatically be linked to this page. Then you hit click on download Python, this right here. Click on save the basically file, then it will quickly start downloading. This would not take like a minute. This is just very fast. You can already see it's just a few seconds, and now you can see it has been. So now I can quickly go into my downloads folder, which is quickly where I can find it right here, into my downloads folder, and here I can find the Python 3.10.1 right here. So I will just click on it, and then it will start running it. You can see install Python 3.10.1 64-bit edition, which is correct. So right here I can either make a customized installation, but in this case I will install it now with all the basically regular and standard things applied, so you don't have to change very much. We can change more things in the future basically. So what we will basically do, we will click on install now as the button says, and then you can see it installing. So this is really not that hard. So you can see setup is in progress, installing. This is taking a few seconds, so it should be done in about 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds. You can see still it's going. So basically this is what you can do. So it's very easy to download Python for your computer. But while it's running, I just want to quickly explain you that basically Python is the compiler we use. This is because, as we already talked about in what is exactly Python 3 lecture, I exactly said you that we're programming in a programming language, and that so the programming language is able to communicate with our computer. We basically have to have like a compiler. So this is basically the translator. For example, in real life, when you're from England and you want to go to, I don't know, Japan or something like this, and then you search for translator, so you're able to communicate with the people in Japan. So this is basically what Python does. So it basically allows you to translate the code you're coding on PyCharm, which is the program we will use for coding or programming in Python. Make you able to, or the computer able to understand the code you're writing. So basically it is a translator right here. As you can see, setup was successful. So that's everything you need to know. You can just close it, and this is everything you need to know about installing Python 3 on your computer. So I will see you in the next lecture. We'll continue working how to exactly install PyCharm on your computer. So see you in the next lecture. Bye. Okay, so hello and welcome to another lecture in this course where we'll quickly exactly show you how to successfully and correctly download and install PyCharm on your computer to be successfully able to develop and program in Python. So you can see I'm currently on the official download page of PyCharm, which is basically the IDE, so the integrated developer environment we will use. So this is basically the coding or the programming editor we will use. You can translate it as a programming editor. Of course, it's not like a real programming editor. It's an EDI, so this basically means, as already said, integrated integrated developer environment. So this is basically the environment we will develop in Python in. So yeah, this will help us a lot. You can see this is exactly the official page I'm currently on. Don't worry, you can find the official download link of PyCharm directly under this lecture. So it's an article, it's like called official PyCharm download link or something, or official download. So you will just find it under this. You will find official download link of PyCharm, I will just call it, and then you can successfully click on the link, and then you will be automatically transferred to the official page of PyCharm download. So right here you can see, you can read through some articles, you can see developer tools, but all in all we are currently on the right page. So what we will do, either you're on Windows, Mac or Linux, you will just click right here and basically look out for a system. In my case, I'm on Windows, so I will click right here, and right here you can see there's a professional edition and a community edition. In our case, we will use the community edition because first of all, it's free, it's built on open source as it says down below, and you already bought this course, and as I promised, everything what we will use in this course is for free available. Of course, you can also buy the professional edition. I think it's like a monthly charge, so it's not like one-time payment, it's like a lifetime payment. I'm not 100% sure. So if you're interested in a professional edition, you can look to it, but all in all, it is enough if you currently just leave it at the community edition, because this is the only real run we currently need, because we're starting with the basics and not with high professional programming. So right here what we'll do, we will just click on download, and then it will automatically start. You can see, thanks for downloading. Here we'll save the file, then you can see it should start downloading, and I will see you back when it has successfully downloaded the PyCharm download file. Okay, so welcome back. So right here I've currently downloaded the PyCharm community application file, which will currently run. You can see this is the file I've downloaded it, which you also should have when you've followed up what I did a few seconds ago. So what I will quickly do, I will just double click on the file, and then you will successfully see that it will start launching the application. So you can see I got a little, if you got a little black screen, I'm sorry, this was just accepting this, that I'm an administrator, so you can just leave it up. So right here you can now see, welcome to PyCharm Community Edition setup. Setup will guide you through the installation of PyCharm Community Edition. It is recommended that you close all other applications before starting up. This will may take it possible to update relevant system files without having to reboot your computer. Click next to continue. So this is basically what it says. It would be better to close all your applications that are currently running. In my case, I have just a few open it, so it doesn't really matter. But all in all, it doesn't really matter if you've opened some programs. It doesn't really matter. So what we will do right here at the application wizard or at the download wizard, we will just hit next. Here we can define a destination folder, so where the community edition should be installed. In my case, I would just leave it as it is. Here you can click next again. Here we can choose between a create desktop shortcut, update context menu, and some more things. But in my case, I would just leave it as it is because my desktop is clear. So you do not really have to add a create desktop shortcut. So right here, we'll click next. Right here, select JetBrains. Click install, and then it will start installing. So yeah, I will see you back when it has successfully installed PyCharm Community Edition. Okay, so as you can right now see successfully, so you can see the window completing PyCharm Community Edition setup. You can see it is successfully now completed. So what we can do now, we can run PyCharm Community Edition, hit finish, and then it will successfully starting the PyCharm Community Edition. You can see PyCharm Community 2021.3. So this is basically the newest version you can download at JetBrains. Yeah, as you can see, it is opening. So, and basically what we can do right here, I will just close it up again because I want to continue. You can see, welcome to PyCharm. This is exactly the window you should also have opened with no project. Don't worry, this is just a Hello World project I've just created for the course right here. But all in all, you should have no basically project. You can just create a new project right there. But we will continue with everything of understanding and customization of PyCharm in the next lecture, so we can have a separated overview of this. But all in all, you should now have successfully applied and installed PyCharm on your computer to be successfully able to install, to work or develop in Python. But all in all, I will continue with you in the next lecture of understanding and the customization of PyCharm. But all in all, I will see you in the next lecture. So yeah, bye. Okay, so hello, welcome to another lecture in this course where I want to quickly explain you how exactly PyCharm works, how you can customize it, and basically understand the usage of PyCharm. So you are successfully able to create your own custom programs in Python using PyCharm. So the PyCharm IDE, which stands for Integrated Developer Environment, which you already should have known from the installing section, lecture where we installed or successfully installed and set it up PyCharm on our devices. So now what we can do, you can see either you have this little right here. So this little interface right here when successfully installed, or you should have this interface right here. If not, please search for a button where it says new project or plugins, because this is what we will now cover. So before we start, we want to first of all create a new custom project so we can start customizing and understanding PyCharm for Python programming. So what we will do, we will create a new project, and then you will exactly see that we can define now the location of our project. So in my case right here, you can name the project, you just remove the last line of location here. And here you can start renaming your project. In my case, I will just call it Udemy course, because this is the exact name I want to have. So I can exactly find, if I, for example, want to record a new lecture or record the next few lectures for this course, I exactly know, okay, right here, there's the Udemy course project. So there I can start developing or making the videos for this course. So right here, you can see a new environment using. So you can see there are a few settings you can apply. So for example, pipe and environment, poetry and conda. The thing we will use is virtual environment. You will learn later on what this exactly means and what the difference between all those is, but all in all we will now leave it as it is currently, because now we can exactly define the location of our virtual environment, which you can also leave it as it is. So it will just be in our Udemy course as we already defined right here, and then in the virtual environment folder. This we will just leave. Right here we can make the base interpreter, so exactly where our Python is installed. As already explained in the installing Python section, I said you that you should install or remember where the directory where you installed, or the location of your Python where you've installed it. If not, so PyCharm should automatically recognize where Python is installed. If not, please click right here on this 3 points and then search up where you have installed the python.x from, so the application, so the startup of Python. As already explained, you need the directory. If not, please reinstall Python and then exactly define the direction you can remember. But it should automatically, so PyCharm should automatically find your Python on your computer. If not, as already explained, search for it or reinstall and then remember the directory where you install it. So right here we can enable some things like inherit global site packages, make available to our projects. We do not really have to care about those settings because I've never really used them. I do not think you will use them in your future, but they're just, as you already see, inherited global site packages. So it will just inherit global site packages, and right here make available to our project. It will just make it available to all projects. But this is settings we don't really care about. So right here we can you can see interpreter, we don't really also do not care, and right here we can either create the checkbox or the mark, create a main Python welcome script. I would recommend you to do so. This is why we should get now a welcome.python script file where we can then start developing, because this is going to be our main file where we'll also start doing so. So as you can see, directory is not empty. Okay, then maybe we should try getting another name, because this name may be already taken. Then we'll just call it Udemy course new, like this. I will just then call it, and I will then hit create right here. So let's wait till the project has been set up successfully. This could take a few seconds because it's installing all the plugins and packages we need for the Python programming, but all you can see right now, it's working. So then you can see everything successfully opens. If your PyCharm, when created a new project, looks like this, just click right here on projects, and then you can double click on the main.python file, and here you can see our main file. So we don't really want to care right now about this, so we will just remove the whole code from here so we can start customizing and understanding the usage of PyCharm for Python programming. So the first thing is we want to customize it a little bit, because you can see it looks a little bit boring with all those gray and things. I like this design because for me it's very basic, and yeah, it doesn't bleed my eyes out. For example, people like to use white. I'm not one of those person who use white. This is basically why I'm using a little bit darker designs, but all in all I like this design, but I can quickly show you how you can customize it on your own. So what you do is you go on settings right here, and then it should open up a little settings window right here, as you can see, and here you can start customizing your things. So for example, we can go into appearance, and then we can go right here, and you can see theme selection. So in my case, I have Dark Color installed because yeah, this is so we have IntelliJ Light, Windows 10 Light, Dark Color and High Contrast. So those are the four basic and standard designs of PyCharm, but I will just leave it as it is currently because I like the dark color design. But I can quickly show you how we can design or install custom designs. For this, we head over to plugins, and right here I have already installed one plugin, which is the Atom Material icons. This is because I like to have those icons, because in general, maybe you already wondered why they look different in your case. They look a little bit different and strange when having Atom material icons not installed. This is because I have this installed. I would also recommend you to install this because it just looks better and cleaner to work in Python or in PyCharm with that. So what do? You go onto the marketplace and right here you write Atom material icons, and there you can find it. So then we can also use or search for theme right here. We can one dark theme or look for some dark themes. You can also define material. There you can find Atom, or this is the most popular one. You can see material theme UI. So I can quickly click install on this and then it will start installing it. For this we have to restart quickly our IDE. So all the changes get applied. This is the plugin where we can define now custom materials and custom themes in PyCharm. So we will quickly see this. Let's quickly wait a few seconds. Then it will quickly start up, as you can already see. And as already works, loading Udemy course, and then we can now quickly click onto the file right here at the top. So right here, while it's still loading, file, we click right here at the top. Okay, it's still better laggy, I'm sorry for this, right here. Then we can start. Then you go on settings, if it would work. This is a little bit laggy right there. Yeah, then let's quickly wait, but it should now work in a few seconds. So yeah, as you can already see, what's new in Material Theme UI. So this is the plugin we just installed. I can quickly close it. Then I head over to File. Then I go over to Settings. And then it should again open up this little window. And if I now go to Appearance and Behavior, so right here, and then into Appearance, you can see I'm now able to define different. Like for example, I can define like dark color material, but this should be all the same. Yeah, it looks kind of different. I also like this one, but you can just browse around and find the better material you like. For example, material darker is also very cool, but as already explained, I really like to use the normal and standard one, which is dark color, because for me it's the best option. Oh no, with the selected high contrast, yeah, this looks really ugly. I've never seen one who uses this. It's just really ugly. So, but now what we can do, we can also change some sizes right here. So what we can do, we can go into editor, then into font, and right here then we can select at the top. Right here we can just say change the size of our coding right here. My standard version, which is also I think standard for everything, you know already like standard versions, but you can see we can define the line height, which I like to use on 1.0, because for example some people have it on this one, but you can see it looks really not that cool when having so much line spacing. I like to use 1.0 because then it looks very clean, and here you can define the size of the letters, but I like to use 18. And yeah, right here we can then click apply and OK, and now you can see everything what we have defined successfully works. So now I want to quickly talk with you about some buttons right here which are very important in PyCharm. So we got the file right here where you can select between open, new project, settings, other things, file properties, and so on. So not that really. So we can edit our core, our code, cut something, copy, paste, select, and so on. Here we can make some view changes like recent files, active editor, and so on. Here we can navigate through everything with shortcuts and so on. And yeah, here we can reflect the code and so on as here and here. So those are the most important also. So you can fold things, we can inspect code and so. Yeah, it's really cool. So then we get to refactoring, which we will also come on. There we got now the run window where we can run, debug, attach to process, view breakpoints, import tests from files, and so on. Right here we got the tools we can apply or use. We do not really want to care about right now. And there we got some anti-res, is just really not that useful. So right here we can also get help if needed, but right now it's just like it is. So then to the quick buttons. So right here we have the run button, which also has a shortcut on Windows. It's Shift and F10. I'm not really sure what it's for Linux or Mac OS, but if you hover over it on Linux or Mac OS, you should successfully see the shortcut, because this should automatically recognize the system, and then it should automatically display you the right shortcut for your system. Then we have again the debug button. There we have the run main with coverage. Here we can stop our program if run. Right now it's not running. This is because we cannot stop it. Here we can search for something. Here we can go to the IDE and project settings, and here we can space the integrate team environment, which is something where we can code with others as here. So code with me, there we can share our code and then work with others like using GitHub and so on. but this is not part of the course right now. So here we can see some different things. This is like a status bar and some active things we can also see, but right now this is also this is our code interface. Here we will write basically our code. So this is the coding editor and the interface, and right here we got also the interface library where we can select between our projects, so our virtual environment files. We can create new files by right clicking on here, so right click, and then we can go to new and maybe create a new file, new scratch file directory, Python package, Python file, HTML file, and so on. So you can see it is successfully working. Here we have some external libraries we will also come through later when we, for example, want to export or add different things to our project. This is how you can use or make usage of PyCharm. You can see it's a very cool and powerful program for Python programming. And yeah, I will see you in the next lecture where we'll continue to work on how to exactly learn programming in Python. So see you in the next lecture. Bye. Okay, so hello, welcome to another lecture in this course where I want to quickly exactly show you how you can write your first own custom program in Python programming. So in the last lecture, we already created this amazing project here, which is called Udemy course, which we will now use for the next few lectures to be successfully able to create our programs, learn about variables, data types, and all the stuff, which is the background stuff of Python, so all the operators and so on. So later on, we maybe cover some highly advanced projects. We will maybe create another project, but all in all, we will now just keep in the Udemy course project so we exactly know where we work. Okay, so yeah, let's start. So what we have, I already explained to you in the last lecture how to create a new project, how the project is basically structured and built, and what we can do with the project. So set up things, project structure, project settings, and much more. So, but all in all, let's now start creating our first own custom Python program. So before we start, I just want to quickly say that right here, if not selected, please, so if you're PyCharm would look like this. If you open up the Udemy course project, click here on project and then right double click on main.py, which stands main.python, to be at the same interface as I'm currently at. So yeah, let's start. So the first and very basic method you should learn when learning Python, which is print, because print is a very useful and most important. So for me, it's the most important function or methods in Python programming. This is because of course it is able to write something into the console, and it's also a very great step of debugging later. You don't really have to understand what debugging exactly is, but trust me, later on when we write more highly advanced project, or you will write more high advanced projects, this little print method or function will help you a lot to check for code, print something into it, check for information, check variables, and much more. So this is a very high or a very basic step, but is a high step for Python programming. But all in all, let's now start. So for example, if you want to print out, let's say 100, let's run this really quickly, and then what we will have is we have now the number or the value 100 in our Python or in our PyCharm console. So, but what if you want to print out like text? So for example, hello world. So for those people who already programmed in any other language should already know that the first program you always write when going into a new programming language is always a hello world program. So it is called the hello world program because you always try to print hello world into the console to check if you were have set it everything up, and just your first milestone in the new programming language. So print hello world, and you can see we get an error. So you can quickly hover over it and you can see unresolved reference world. What does it mean? So this means that Python is not able to sort this reference into the code, so it is not able to use this. So this is because there are data types and some rules about data types. So they're like strings, integers, booleans, floats, and much more. So I don't really want to confuse you right now, but the easiest way to fix this, or the only way to fix this, is either using double quotes between those or single quotes. So you can choose between single or double quotes. So the most people are using, I think in Python, is single quotes, but I still like to use or keep using double quotes because in any other programming languages they're very popular, and this is because I'm still using those, and I think they're very useful. So, and when I write here, hello world, for example, just right here, oh sorry, I misspelled it right here, hello world, you will now successfully see that the error is gone, and if I now quickly run my project, you can successfully see what has been printed into the console, which is hello world. So we now have successfully created our first own program with either printing a value of number into the console or a string, so a text value into the console. So you can see it is very easy and very efficient by using this method right here. So, but back to the rules again. So right here, why does it work like this? So with the number, but with a string not, because this is something about data types and variable and all the logical operator knowledge, which we will cover later on. What I just want to say is that there are different data types. So for example, a string stands for text or like a sentences, and an integer stands or is for a number, and they all have different rules. For example, in a float you can only store like decimal numbers and so on, and for a string you always need to use or surround the string with double or single quotes. But don't worry, we will still cover all those things in the past, sorry, not in the past, in the future, when we go to more so the next few lectures, because right now we just want to keep it basic, because if I will now confuse you with all the variables, data types, variables and much more, this would just confuse you and make you quit developing in Python. This is not what I wanted, or this is not my goal. So this is because we will start from the basic and go to more and more high advanced stuff. And this is also the topic of this whole course. As already explained, this course covers the main basics and fundamentals for the people who never touch Python to be successfully able to learn Python in an easy and an efficient and very fast way in this case. Okay, so as you can see, we've now successfully created our first own custom program. This is successfully working. This is an easy step, but trust me, in the future it's going to be more interesting. But this is also a high advanced milestone, so you can be happy about it that you've made it to this point. So in the next lecture, we will continue with some different background stuff, like explaining the console and explaining some commentaries and much more. But for now, just maybe you can hang a little bit around with printing other stuff and much more. But please do not write any advanced project right now with your knowledge you maybe have from different programming language, or you already had from the past of developing in Python, because it's just the basic and starting point of learning a new programming language. Okay, so but all in all, thanks for watching this lecture, and I will see you in the next lecture where we'll continue to work on how to exactly learn programming with Python. So yeah, see you in the next lecture. Bye. Okay, so hello, welcome to another lecture in this course. So this is going to be a very quick lecture, because I just want to talk with you about how to exactly use commentaries in your Python code, because this is also a very important step in the Python programming, because right with commentaries you can be able to explain your code to other people, explain to yourselves, or be able to add some description to your code. So it's just a very cool function. So we already learned how to write a basic program. So this is just like print hello world. So this is exactly what we already covered. I know this is easy, but this already is enough for this lecture. So if I write, for example, hello world right now, you can successfully see, so I can duplicate it a little bit more. So let's say it's this, so we just have some more lines, and right here, instead of writing hello world all the time, we will write hello earth, and here we'll write hello, I don't know, hello, maybe our name, so my name, hello Pascal. So we got now hello world, hello earth, and hello Pascal. So what we want to know to do is, for those people who never touch Python, of course this is a very easy step, and I think everyone who never touched Python would going to be understand this. But for example, if you have if you want to publish your code, or you want to describe the code to yourself to keep it memorized in your head, or if you want to explain it for your friend in text or something like this, you always use commentaries. So what they are exactly and how they exactly work. So for example, if I want to write here, let me write, I don't know, I want to explain this line of code. So either I go to the top and write it for down below, or I write it at the same line, which I will do right now. So of course I can now explain the code. This line, or this line of code, let's say code, yeah, prints hello world into the console. So, and you can see this is basically the description of this whole line, because it says print hello world, and this line of code prints hello world into the console, which is true. So, but you can see it is an error, because right here, this is not recognizable as a code. So there's no function in there, there's no statement in there, there's no variable in there, nothing. And Python does not know what to do with it. And to easily replace all this and make it to a commentary, we just put a hashtag before it. And you can see successfully all the errors are gone, and we have now this little gray color, which should be applicable, or which is applied to, I think, every design you're using on Python or in PyCharm right here, because yeah, this is one. Commentaries are always like gray, so you do not notice them very easy. So your attraction goes all to the comments. This is why every design should have it on gray, so you do not like have a high advanced color on them. So, but back to the topic. So then we can also describe this line of code. So this line of code prints hello earth into the console, and right here the last one, this line of code prints hello Pascal into the console. So you can see this is very easy to understand, because right here what we have, or the structure of a commentary, is always just a hashtag, and then right here you can put whatever you want. So you can see it does not matter. And if I now quickly run this whole code, so write this PyCharm code, Python code, not PyCharm code, sorry, you can see hello world, hello earth, and hello Pascal is successfully working without any errors. Because right here, after using a hashtag, everything back, so if I put a hashtag and then all what will follow, so back after the hashtag will follow, then everything will be commented out. So Python will no longer recognize this code and just think that this code isn't even there. So instead of thinking right here, it will not affect, so this commentary will not affect it will not affect any memory usage, it will not affect any errors, it will not affect any code, it will not affect anything. So it will just act like if there's nothing. So this is the same as this, so nothing is there. We just see it right there, so we are able to describe it for you, for people, for the public, for the globality, for our friends, for ourselves, to be able to understand the code a little bit more. So, but as already explained, this is the same as this, so it will not cause any memory usage. It will just make the file maybe a little bit bigger, so a bigger size when you export it, but this is not really what we care about, because right now we just want to handle with the Python language. So first of all, at the end, I just wanted to say that I will recommend you to use, for the beginnings, when writing some programs, I would always recommend you to add commentaries to your code, so you can understand the code a little bit more. So for example, if we cover like if statements, and I say here you can create your own if statements. Now when you start creating your own if statements programs like there, I would always recommend you to start add some commentary to it. For example, this and this line checks for something, and this line writes this and this, so you can understand it more as a beginner. So this is just a recommendation. You do not have to really do this. Of course, this is time wasting, I know, but this is for better learning purposes. So I would just really recommend you to do this, but I cannot, I don't know, you just have to decide on your own, either you want to do so or so, but I would always recommend you to use. Even still, I am using those commentaries to add commentaries to my code, so I can understand them, people who I send the code to them can understand them, and just for some purposes for me, so I exactly know, okay, this and this line without reading through the line. So just for those learning purposes, I would really recommend you to do so, but all in all, I will see you in the next lecture, where we'll continue to work on how to easily learn programming in Python. So, see you in the next lecture. Bye. Okay, so hello, welcome to another lecture in this course, where I just want to quickly talk with you about how Python code is being executed so you can successfully understand this. So for example, right here, this is the code interface. So you can see if I go down, it goes from line 1 to 10, or from line, I can add as many lines as I want. So, but what I wanted to do right now is I want to write like print hello world. So, and the order of the code or the lines being executed is very easy. So it goes, for example, if I have like a code, which is in this case just an example, of course, no code would be like this. So the first line of code is going to be print hello world, and the last code is going to be print hello world again, and then a lot of space between it, but it's just for learning purposes. But you can see from from line 1 to line 11, there's a lot of, but let's think of right here, here's some code. So for example, here's a code line, here's a code line, here. Just imagine, you don't really have to understand this, but just imagine that here right there are some code lines like statements, while loops, and so on. Don't really understand this right now. So, but just keep imagining that there's full lines of code. So, and it works like this. It goes from line 1, so from the beginning, to the end, which is right here. So it will not like start in line 5 and go to line 9 and then go again to line 1 and then go to line 13 and then go to line 2 and then go to the end. This is not how Python calls code being executed. So please, when you write your code, always start with the things you need at the beginning, because they will, as already explained, the code starts from the beginning. So for example, if you declare a variable right here, so name, we have not covered it, but for example, if I declare a variable right here, so right here equals to word. So you don't really, as already explained, please do not take anything out of this course. Just take out of the course how Python code is being executed. So right here we have the variable name with the value word. So, and if we put it right here, I want to print it out right here, you can see I'm getting an error. Why? Because it cannot recognize the variable at the top right here, because it has not been recognized right here, because it all being just right here, sorry. Just being recognized in line 7 and not in line 4. In line 4, Python has no no memory about the name variable. And this is how Python code just works. So it goes from the beginning, so from the first line to the last line in one line. So it goes from top to below the level. So it will just run from top to low. So there's nothing to talk about. This is how Python code is being executed and how it will work. Okay, so hopefully this little lecture helped you a little bit more for understanding how the Python code is being executed. This will help you a lot of writing your code now. And now we see you in the next lecture where we'll continue to work on how to exactly learn programming in Python. So see you in the next lecture. Bye. Okay, so hello and welcome to another lecture in this course where we'll quickly exactly learn about data types in Python programming. So we will now exactly learn about data types as already said in the beginning of this lecture, which is basically the beginning currently, so just now let's start. So first of all, what are data types exactly? So you maybe already heard about the data types, not the data types, about the word variables. So maybe you already programmed in any other languages like Java, JavaScript, C#, C++, and so on. And you already heard about the word variables. So, or lists or something like this. And basically, you also know the words like numbers, words, logical operators, and so on. And basically, I already explained to you that we work with the computer, so we have to put the code exactly so the computer is able to read it and understand. So basically, we communicate with the computer by using our code. And what we basically want to do right now is we want to basically use a word. And we cannot just write like word. I don't know. So we cannot just write, for example, a print and then just write in here word. So this would not work because it says name error, name is not defined. Did you mean? And you can see. So this is an error because we already started with this one right here. So this was, I think, our first program with some changes. So hello world. So what we did right here, this was one of the very first programming lectures where we talked about how to exactly create our first own program. There we said hello world. So, but you can see when I write hello world without those double brackets, you can see I first of all get many errors, and if I run this, I still get errors. But if I make them back to and put them in single or double quotes, you can now successfully see that it is working. So now I run this and I get hello world. And this is what data types basically are. They help us to provide or be able to work Python or give Python the opportunity to work with basically words, numbers, logical operators, and much more. So we call them, for a word, you often use the word string. So in Python it's a strr, so it's the it's basically like a other word, but in my case I'll call it string. But in Python you cannot just write string. This is not would not work. This is because you just write str, so string. And as you can see, it's also a class right here, so marked as a class. Also, we can use this one, but this is not the most, or you should just use this little, str. So, and let's continue. So first of all, as already explained, we got the string, then we got the int, so basically the integer, this is this one right here, and another one, which is the boolean, which is also a very common one, as you can see. So, what we have right now is we have a string, which basically is the usage for str, so the small thing, and then for int we use for integer we use int, and for boolean we use bool. So as you can see, now we got right here str, now we got int for integer, and we got bool for boolean. So those are the two or the three most common used data types. Of course, they're more like float, as you can see currently, but currently we just want to cover the most or the common three, which are the most useful data types in Python programming, because we currently start with the basics. Don't worry, when we go on and on in this course, you will still learn about all those other which are available in Python programming. But all in all, first of all, we will learn the most common and basic one, which are string, integer, and boolean. So what basically a string does? So a string basically does, let's put it right here. A string allows you to put, or you can just put a slash, define words in. Yeah, you can just basically put it like this. So string allows you to put slash define words. So, but one thing, so when you use like, we can basically use the example again with print. For example, if I want to print like a word, like say hello, you can see, and then put like hello world, you can see I'm getting this error. But if I, for example, like put the value, for this we have to use single quotes or double quotes. But if I, for example, put 15, you can see the error is gone. Of course, we can like put this into single or double quotes, but then it's the integer is no longer an integer, it's now a string. I know this sounds weird, but when you go on and on in this course, you will successfully learn what's the difference between all this is in writing it with this or writing it like this. Though you will still learn the difference. So then this is how you can put a string. So what you have to follow up. So a big rule, I will quickly mark this right here. Rule, let's say, yeah, always put the string value into double or single quotes. So this is a very big rule, please keep this in mind. So an int is basically or allows you, integer allows you to put define numbers basically, so not or numeric things. So, and the bool basically does exactly the same. So what we have, not the same, but right here I can write false or true. And basically, you cannot write like true or false. This is what Python offers you. It offers a case-sensitive language, so we cannot just write false right here. Then Java could, not Java, sorry, then Python could recognize this as a variable or as a word or something like this. This is because Python included this, that the first step of a boolean has to be a big letter, which in this case is false. So, but what you have to mention is that first of all, write boolean allows you to define, or let's just type it define true, or let's write it again, true or false. So the only value you can put into a boolean is the value false or true. So you can see, as already explained, you have to follow up. The first letter has to be the case, uppercase. So always just write it like this and you will be safe. So as already explained, the boolean is only able to define false or true. So we can, for example, define like a story. So for example, if you tell me a story about a flying bird, I would say that this is true because, a bird can fly. Not every, of course, but if you tell me about a bird that can fly, I'm going out that, or I think of that the bird is able to fly and not just a bird without wings or cannot fly. So, and false, maybe I tell you about a flying door or a flying house or a flying, a dog, then you will maybe say or would say that the story is false. So this is the example I can give you about it. So you are able to define false or true to be able to explain something, use it in variables, which we will still cover in the next 2 lectures. So all in all, those are very important data types. But all in all, you just have to follow up all those things. So the common 3 types of data types are string, integer, and boolean. So those are the 3 common ones, because with this you can cover logical operators, words, and numbers. So all in all, this is everything you should have learned right now. So you just need all those 3. Of course, I said there's also another one or more one like floats and other ones. But all in all, we will just keep it as it is currently, because I want to keep you on the basic level. Because so in the next few lectures we can go level up, so you do not you're not getting overflowed or overwhelmed with information you cannot even understand right now without having any examples. This is because I'm only covering with you the basic 3 right now. But you can just imagine that those are the most common 3-1, which you basically just all need in every program. So you can make sure that in every program you will literally use one time a string, one time an integer, or one time a boolean, or even together. So it depends on the program you will write, but I can promise you in every program you will write in the future, you will use either a string, either an integer, or either a boolean, or just all together of them. Okay, so yeah, hopefully this little lecture helped you a little bit more for understanding how to exactly now use data types, what they exactly are, and what the structure of data types are. And yeah, hopefully exactly this helped you, and I will see you in the next lecture. We will continue to work on how to exactly learn programming in Python. So yeah, see you in the next lecture. Bye. Okay, so hello and welcome to another lecture in this course where we will quickly exactly show you how to exactly use or make usage of variables. So we already learned from the last 2 lectures, which were about what variables exactly are and what data types exactly are and how they work. Really learned that they're the most common one are string, or in this case, basically str. This is for string, and then we got int, and then also one which is basically for bool, so boolean. as you can maybe see right here. So what we can do basically is we can quickly use those variables. So what we want to quickly do is we want to create a variable. As you learned from the last lecture, a variable is basically a name. So we have got like a name, and in this name we store a value. And as you already know, this is locally. So this value is saved anywhere in our computer on a local, basically memory. So it's not like online. So when you start and stop the program, it will be automatically saved. No, the variable is just locally. So if you stop the program or make something else with the program or remove the variable is no longer stored, so it's only like stored in the code. So if you remove it from the code, it's no longer stored. So if I write name equals to, in this case, Peter, and then for example want to print this out really quickly, then you will successfully see what will happen, because when I quickly run this, you will see I get Peter. But if I, for example, remove this here again and then just quickly run it out, it gives me an error. Traceback. So because the variable name is no longer stored anywhere when you run it uniquely. So it's only available if you run it right there. So it's only stored in the code, and then when you're running it locally on your memory. So this is hopefully clearly for sure. So, but now let's start. So as already explained, we got the data type string, which is basically right here. Remember, when using a string, you have to put this into those double quotes, or you can also use single quotes. But I more like to use double quotes, because from the most programming languages I also use, like Java, I mostly use double quotes, or there are for strings you use mostly double quotes, and this is because I mostly use double quotes, but I think most popular in Python is most when you use those single quotes. But all in all, I will use for strings mostly them, but all in all I will use those double quotes. So then already, as explained, there's another type, which is basically the int, as you can see right here. So we can say like age equals to, let's say, I don't know, 21. So Peter, I don't have to put semicolons right here. So we got now the variable name with the value Peter saved, and we got now the variable with the data type int, so integer, so whole number, applied 21. So now we can add one more, like, I don't know, is student or is underscore student equals to false. So maybe you already wonder why I write false. So from normal English, you should all know the words false and true. So those are the basic English words when you learn the language or work with the language. So you all hear already, I think, false and true. So false just basically can be overridden or meant as not true. So wrong, and true means just that this is correct. So basically you can override it. For example, if I say the story is false, I mean the story is not real. And if I say the story is true, I likely explain that the story is there, so the story is real. Like I'm talking about the flying bird. Of course, birds can fly, so the story is true. But when I tell you about the flying door, a door can't fly, so the story is false in this case. So what we basically do right here is we say that let's call him a student. So our student has the name Peter. He's about 21 years or is 21 years old. And right here we check is student, we say it to false. So you have to put this, this is why we're using Python. So in Python, you have to make usage of the case-sensitive thing. So what means case-sensitive? So if I write false, you can see that there's no error, but it's also not colorful, because when I change it back to false with the big letter F, you can see it's getting orange marked up. This is because Python cannot recognize this as a false. You have to follow up with the big F, and the same thing when you're writing true. So this is a big rule you should follow up in Python programming, and this is why we always use case sensitive. So please remember that Python is case sensitive, so you're not just able to write like true and this would work. So in this case you have to write false or true. So in my case, he's not a student because, I don't know, he's making a year outside of his world, in the world. He makes a year, an adventure year in the world. So he experienced all the world, all around, make a journey around the world, the journey. So all in all, he's not a student. Let's say he has no time. So what we can now basically do with those variables, we're able to print them out. So in this case, we can write print, let's say the name of our student is, and let's say plus name. So name right here. And then we can do the same basically with another print. So we write the age of our student is, and then right here we write the age of our student, and then another thing which is going to be, or let's say let's use person, because we have not defined that he's a student right there. So right here, and then again right here let's write the same thing again. So the person I don't know how to write it. Let's say the person is a student, and then let's say false or true. I think you can understand this. And right here we write, right there is student. So maybe when we run out the program, also quickly remove this commentary right here. So now when we quickly run like our program right here, you will maybe recognize, or we will get errors. As you can see, it starts saying the name of our person is Peter, so it is successfully working. But you can see at the thing at line 6, it says there's an error, because it says type error can only concatenated, so I will just call it string, not in it for integer to string. So what does it mean? So right here we have a integer basically, and what we do right here is we adding a text string to a number. So what we basically do, we just write like in real life you would say like when you have the word Peter plus 12. So this would not work, because you cannot just add, for example, if you're covering math, you cannot just add a 12 to a word. This is not possible. You can maybe do 12 plus 12, but you cannot just do Peter plus 12. This won't work. Then we would maybe get Peter 12, but we want to not have this. So what we basically have to do is we have to cast it or change the type of our variable right here. So what we basically do, we quickly remove it, and now we exactly write this little str for string, and then right here put brackets into it, and between those brackets we put exactly the value we want to define, which is basically string. So right here we cast it as a string, so casting is changing the type of something. And then if you quickly run this, you can now see we get the name of our person is Peter, the age of our person is 21, and now you can see there's another error at line 7. And basically, as you can currently imagine, the boolean is not a string, so what we basically have to do is we have to put this again into this little function right here. So make it to a string, so string, then in brackets is student, then run this again, and now we have code without any errors. So our first line is going to be the name of our person is Peter, the age of our person is 21, and the person is a student, false. So what is the coolest thing at variables? So what we can now do, we can easily change it. So maybe you can say he's a student, he's now 25, and he's now no longer called Peter. I don't know why. He's now called Tim, for example. So if I run this really quickly, you can now see the name of our person is Tim, the age of our person is 25, and the person is a student, true. So this is basically a very cool functionality with variables. Of course, there are a lot more different data types and variables you can use. For example, a float, like different types like a float, and different things like characters also. But all in all, the most common one and the most common used in Python programming is basically the string. So I can quickly write it right here. Is the string. Then we got the int for basically integer, so I just write it out. And we also got the boolean also, which means true or false. So the string, the integer, and the boolean are the most common one in programming languages, like also in Python and JavaScript, in Java also, and like also in C# and so on. So in many different programming languages, or many various programming languages, you have different data types. But all in all, the most common ones are string, integer, and boolean, as already explained. Then we will still learn all the other types of data types, but all in all we just keep it at the basic level currently. This is because I'm currently only covering with you the string, the integer, and the boolean. But I think that's enough for now. You should now be able to write your own custom, really small codes, so maybe another hello world program. But all in all, you have now learned how to exactly use variables, what variables exactly are, and the most common data types in Python programming. Okay, so yeah, hopefully this little lecture helped you a little bit more for understanding how to exactly use variables or make usage of variables in Python programming. And I will see you in the next lecture. We will continue to work on how to exactly learn programming with Python. So yeah, see you in the next lecture. Bye. Okay, so hello and welcome to another lecture in this course where we'll quickly exactly talk about the variable declaration in Python programming. So during all those lectures we already had the getting started section about the basics and working basics of Python programming. You may already heard of the word initialization and declaration. So in this lecture we will talk about the declaration, and so how to declare a variable and what does the keyword exactly mean. And in the next lecture we will exactly talk about what exactly initializing of a variable, or what exactly initialize of a variable exactly mean. So now let's start. So we did something like name equals to Peter with those double or single quotes you can choose. And we also did the same, like age equals to, I don't know, 25, or we made a boolean like the story equals to, if the story is equal to false or true, it does not matter. So, and basically what we have right here, we have declared our variable right here at this point. So what it basically means, declaration of a variable. So the declaration of a variable basically means that we define the name and the data type. So of course we cannot just write the data type or something like this. We only define like the name. So basically in Python you only have, in other programming languages, for example in Java, you declare the variable by using a data type and basically the name of the variable, but in Python you can just talk about basically the name, so that you declare basically the name. So I can all in all show you quickly how to declare. So for example, if you want to store something as a name like Peter, you put something like this. So this is the declaration of our variable, and then we for example have the let's say is underscore student, and then let's say equals to false. This is right here our declaration. And if we have the same thing again, so like we have, I don't know, user equals to noob master 101, something like this. This is also the declaration. So what we basically mean about declare a variable is basically that we declare the variable with a name. So we exactly put the type of the name to our variable. So we exactly know, okay, to this value I want to put in this variable, because I know, okay, my variable is called age, so I know exactly that there's the age stored of my character, or there's the age stored of my myself, or that there's the age stored of my game, or there's the age stored of my grandpa, or something like this. So exactly know what is it. So this is why I would always recommend you to call your variable like your value. So for example, if you want to store a name, call it name. If you want to store like an address, call it address. If you want to store like a sentence or important sentence, call it like important text, or important underscore text. If you want to store like I don't know, a full name, call it full underscore name. If you want to store like a first name, the same for second name, so second underscore name or first underscore name. So you all know what the variable exactly does. For example, if you have a whole line of code, the code is, or the class is about, I don't know, 150 lines long, and you do not know, okay, you have to scroll up because you do not know what your names or the XY variable basically does. So this is why I would always recommend you to call your variables exactly, so this variable exactly stores this and this value, or save this and this value. So exactly know during your program, okay, I use this variable because of this. So this is basically, you can tell about or understand the word of declare variable. So basically the whole declaration of all the programs. So basically just keep in mind one more, I will say one more time. Basically if I write name equals to Peter, name equals to Peter, or other stuff, if I want to store like an age equals to 25, or a boolean like I don't know, story equals to false, this naming here, those three types right here are basically declaration of a variable. So right here we declare the variable, we give it a name, and also you can tell we're giving the data type. So right here we have, for example, the string, right here we have the integer or an int, and right here we have the bool, so the boolean. Okay, so hopefully this little lecture helped you a little bit more of understanding what exactly the declaration of a variable exactly is. So in the future, when I say declare or declaration, should exactly know what I mean by this. And yeah, I will see you in the next lecture where we'll talk about exactly the opposite one, which is basically the initialization of a variable. So yeah, see you in the next lecture. Bye. Okay, so hello and welcome to another lecture in this course where we'll quickly exactly show you what exactly initialization of a variable basically means. So we already talked in the last lecture about declaration of a variable, and right now I want to exactly show you the opposite one. So maybe from the last lecture you should already know when I quickly write Peter, so name equals to Peter, and then age equals to 25, and then story equals to false or true, it doesn't matter. You should already know that this right here is basically the declaration or the declaration of a variable. So giving the name and the data type, so you cannot define the data type in Python, but basically you can give it a name, and automatically when you define the value, it should give you or append the data type to it. So what is now initialize a variable or an initialization of a variable? This is basically the exact other side, so the opposite one, which is basically, as you can see, so giving, so basically append values to the variables, so to the specific variables, basically is initialization, because right here we set the variable, or we declare first of all the variable, so we set the name, setting it equals to the value Peter, which is our initialization. Right here we have the variable age equals to 25, so the 25 is our initialization, so basically the adding of value to our variable, you can also call it, but the main word or the main yeah, basically the main word programmers use in the job, or experts use, is basically declaration and initialization. So the next time you hear those, you can take part in conversations, or so you do not stay there and do not know what I'm talking about. Or if I'm continuing with the course, you should exactly know what initialization and declaration of variable exactly is. So as I explained, quickly remind it again, and then I will end up this lecture again. So this right here, adding a value to a certain amount of a variable, is basically the initialization of a variable. And this right here is the declaration of a variable. But all in all, you can just say that in the right side, adding the value is initialization, and then the other side is declaration. So this is everything you need to know about the declaration and initialization of a variable. So basically how to declare and initialize a variable. And I will see you in the next lecture, where we continue working on how to exactly learn programming with Python. So yeah, see you in the next lecture. Bye. Okay, so yeah, first of all, hello and welcome to another lecture in this course, where we'll quickly exactly show you how to exactly work with strings in Python. So we already talked about the data type string, so basically this one right here. I can quickly make it right here at the top with a commentary. So that's exactly what we talked about with this little str, so I will just call it string. So, and I want to quickly show you what you can do everything with strings. So what you can do with it, what you can imagine of it, what you can basically make out of it, because strings is a very powerful data type, which you can work with it very, very well. So first of all, let's create a data type. So let's say name equals to Peter. Let's create like a little variable with the name. So let's say, or you can use my own name. Let's say my own name, and then let's say I don't know what we can also do. Let's say text equals to hello world. So we just have a little text right here, which you want to quickly cover. So what we will now do really quickly is very easy. So what we can do right now is we can first of all print this out. So let's write name. So, and then down below directly we will write the same thing but with text. So if I quickly run this, you will successfully see that for the first time, you should already know, I get my name, so Pascal, and the second step is going to be hello world. So we get the text, so the variable, so the text which is stored in the variable text, basically also displayed into the console. So, and now I want to quickly show you what you can do with all those features of strings. So what you can do, you can just type the name of the variable. In my case, I will first of all use the first variable, which in this case is name. So if I press a dot, this is the operator which triggers that I want to add some methods and functionality to my string. And now you can see different methods what I can do. For example, I can find something, I can make something upper, I can join something, I can count something, I can capitalize something, I can encode something, I can check if it ends with something, I can check if it is lower. So you can see there are many different methods, those you don't really have to cover, but all in all you can see there are really so a lot of different methods which we can use. So for example, let's go back to this little print thing right here, and let's first of all, let's call another variable. Let's call this name underscore raw, and let's call this text underscore raw, and then we can quickly make this again, so name underscore raw. No, we will just leave it name. So what I now want to do is I want to set name equals to name raw dot, let's say 2 upper, or it was just 2 upper, it was just upper. And let's do the same with text equals to, and this we will go and set to lower. So what we do, lower. So you don't really have to, so what you can basically understand of it is I can quickly run this, and then you will successfully see what it does. So you can see that I have spelled Pascal like this, so everything small, just the P is uppercase. And now you can see everything is uppercase, so it's capitalized basically. So this is how it's called. I know if you, maybe if you're a game or something, or chat a lot on Discord or other platforms, you maybe know about the word caps lock, so it's written in caps lock. You can also call it capitalize, and this is exactly what it currently does. So this is what the upper method or function does in Python. So it makes every character which is available in the value, so in the text value or the string value, will be made capitalized. So it will be basically to uppercase everything. So, and the same thing with the hello world, you can see everything is lowercase except for the big H and the big W. And you can see I'm making everything to lowercase, so now the H is no longer big and the W is also no longer big and everything is small. So you can see this successfully working, but this is not everything what we can do with it. For example, what we can also do with it, we can go back into our name thing again. and make much more. So for example, we can find something. We can find, for example, let's say we want to find in our name row, we want to find the C. So, and you will now see that we will get a little number right here. So why we get a little number? I can quickly show you this. So right here, we got our name. So, and basically Python is working with indexes, and an index is like not it starts from here 1 2 3 4 5. So you maybe think that we get the character amount, so exactly the place, and you can see we got 3. So if I count 1 2 3 4, you can see it's at the 4th space. But why we get 3? It's at the 4th space. This is because Python is dealing with indexes, and an index in Python or in every programming language, like in Java or other programming languages, always start with 0. This is why we start at the big letter of P, not with 1, we start with 0. And now we can see 0, 1, 2, 3. And the 3 is now the C, so exactly here's our index. And the same thing again right here. We can go right here and write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, sorry. Like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And the last one is like 10. So. Also right here, a spacebar also counts as a find. So if I put this in here, it will also work. But basically, when I put like a, I don't know, a big P in there, it will give me a 0 because it's the first one, which in this case is the first index. So, but when I put a lowercase p in there, you can see we get a negative number, which is -1. This is because, or this means that Python cannot find any character in the string basically, but you can see that we got a big letter of P right here. So why is it not working? As you maybe remember, I already talked about it a little bit. So Python is a case-sensitive programming language. This basically means that you have to define everything in case-sensitive letters. So you're just not able to, for example, put a lower P and then say find the lower P if there's no lowercase p available in the text string. Right here we only got a uppercase P available. This is only why it's only can recognize a big letter of P. So we can do the same thing again right here. So say for example find. We can also find whole words like say world. We want to find a whirl, just whirl without D. You can see it gives me the 6th because it's at the 6th spot, or the whirl starts at the 6th index. So not like at the 7th. It only gives me the index where it starts and ends up where it ends. In this case 6, and it starts at the 6th, goes till the 9th, but it only prints out the 6th. So what we can also do, there's much more which we can do. For example, we can also replace things in our string. So if I quickly write replace, you can see the parameters or arguments in this case. It says string new and string old basically. So what it basically means, we can replace a new, so an old string. Let's say we want to replace, we want to replace the, remember this is also case sensitive. So if I want to replace the P, in this case I have also to define it as a big P, so not like a lowercase p. Let me think. I want to replace the L with a T. Don't worry, I can also replace like whole words. Let me quickly make the L at the end of my name to T, so it's now paskt, something like this. If I run this, you can now successfully see that the R and the L is gone and now replaced with a T. So this is how you can also replace some values. You can also get different values like, I don't know, you can check if it ends with something. So basically what you can do, we can write ends with. So then we can make it to a bool basically, but you will now see what it will basically remove. Oh, is this a text and argument 0 given? Okay, yeah, sorry, my error, because right here it says ends with. We have to put something, because as you maybe see, it says ends with. So what we want to basically check, we want to check if our basically text string ends with a, something. So I want to check if my text string, which in this case is Pascal, ends with L, which basically is true. So in this case, we should get the value true, as you can see. But if I, for example, replace this with a T, which is not true, so my string is not ending with the letter T, you can successfully see it gives me the false, because right here we are argumenting with booleans. So as you can see, maybe if I hover over it, it returns a bool right here. Sends with, and this means bool. So bool means boolean, so it returns true if S. You can also read through this description, but all in all, I think you can already see at the name what it basically does. And there are like more methods we can use. For example, capitalize something. We can find something as we already had. We can replace. We can format. We can check if it's lower, for example. Check if it's lower. You can see it's false because we have got a big letter of p. If I remove it and make it to lowercase p, we get to true. So it is successfully working. So we got other stuff. We can also encode. We can format. It's digital. We can join something when we get to builders and so on. We can split it. For example, right here, when we go to erase and so much more, translate, swip, title, starts with, you can also check. Starts with, let's say, a lowercase p, which is true in this case, because now we have defined the lowercase p. But if I change it back to an uppercase p, and in our name we have a lowercase p at the start, it says false. But if I again make it back to the p right there, it works again. So you can do this with every string. So you can see the data type string is very powerful. So for example, if I use like an int, like say, for example, let's say number equals to 10, number dot. You can see the number has literally no methods. Those are just some variables and some random shit you don't need. But all in all, you can see the most powerful data type in every programming language, and also right there in Python, is basically the string. So you can see we can do many things. We can define things. We can make it to upper, to lowercase. We can work with it. We can add things together. For example, we can also add text together. So if I have, for example, right here, if I want to be able to use my whole name, I can quickly write in here name raw, and then just plus at the end I write a space and then Krause. So my name, Pascal Krause, as you can see, it gets, oh yeah, it's the error because text is not available. Let's remove this and just keep my name. So you can see basically the string is a very powerful thing. So what you have basically to do is only to write the variable name.raw and then place the dot or the point symbol right here, and then you get all the methods which are available for the string. And basically the cool thing also on Python, which basically is applied to PyCharm, which we're currently using, for every function you're using, you can see if I hover over it, I get successfully a description and every parameter I can use. So for example, it says return a copy of this string converted to lowercase, which is basically 2, which we've already covered. So if you maybe see a lot of methods which you can't understand, just use them and then hover over it, and then you will exactly see what it does. But all in all, you can maybe see, or cannot maybe, you can see that data type string is a very powerful data type which is used in Python programming. And I hope with this lecture I was able to exactly show you how powerful it is. So yeah, as we explained, hopefully this little lecture, or not little lecture, this lecture helped you a little bit more for understanding how to exactly, what you can exactly do with the data type string in Python programming. Hopefully this helped you, and I will see you in the next lecture where we'll continue work on how to exactly learn programming with Python. So yeah, see you in the next lecture. Bye. Okay, so hello, welcome to another lecture in this course where I quickly want to talk with you more about integers, because in the last lecture we already talked more about strings, and this is exactly a thing I want to do now with booleans and integers. So in the next lecture we will learn more about booleans, so how they exactly work, what some rules of them are, how you should spell them, how you should work with them, and how they're basically, what the main usage of them is in Python programming. But now what I wanted to do with you is I want to cover with you the integers, so the type of integer. So it's very easy, as we explained. Of course, there's more like floats and so on, but currently we just cover those 3 because those are the most important one. And as already explained in the past lectures, float is basically the same as integer. It just the other one is just able to store decimal numbers, but all in all, they're just being the same. So let's start creating a little variable. So let's, for example, write number 1 equals to 10 and number 2 equals to 20. So this is how you can declare and initialize a variable with the integer, or the data type of integer. Of course, we have not covered yet arithmetic. Sorry, I'm not very good at spelling this word or saying this word, but arithmetic. Operators, I would just call them math operator. I think that's better. Sorry for my bad spelling, but you can see that those math operators help you solving some tasks. So for example, then you're able to write like number 1 plus number 2. So we can really do this just understanding, but you will learn more about those operators later on in the operators section. So it's just called operators in Python. There we will exactly learn how those operators exactly work. But now I just want to keep you the basics of more about strings. So right here you can see, for example, if I write total, I can write number 1 plus number 2. For example, and then if I write it out with the print function, you then will successfully see what will happen. I think you can already guess. So it will just write 10 plus 20, which in this case is 30. So then we can, for example, change the numbers like here. So we can, for example, change them to 50 and then just quickly run this out and we get 60. Or we can also use like minus. So we then have like minus 40, I think. Yes. And or we can multiply things. This should be a big number, 500. So you can see this is how, of course, we can also divide, but all in all, you will learn those basic things in the lecture about the math operators. But you can see those integer data types also very cool, because right here you're able to store those values. So for example, also we already covered those things like with all those data types and so on. And when we later go on into the input function, so exactly talk about input, which should be, I think, the next lecture that we will call or talk about input and output in Python programming. And then it is going to be very important in using those values. So for example, before ending up this lecture, I just want to show you one more thing, because when I write now number 1 equals to 1. So before I'm showing you this, as you can see. So for example, if I'm declaring a string, what I did in the last lecture, so for example, word equals to melon, you already, I does not care really about the spelling. So word and then dot. You can see there are many different methods you can use, like find, lower, upper, replace, as lower, starts with, ends with, capitalized, case, fold, center, count, and so on. So there are just tons of different methods you can use. But when I, for example, write now number dot, you can see really nothing. So of course there's some random things, but we don't really care about. So those are not really that important, but or they're getting important later on. But currently there you can see really the only thing that you can see right here is 2 bytes conjugate as integer radio, bit count, and bit length. So what we can basically do right there, I can just quickly make it right here. So if I write print, and then right here, maybe you can see something. As you can see, 1. Why? Because it gives me the bit length of it. For example, if I'm changing this to 100, then you will see what will happen. I'm getting 7 because the bit length of my number is, in this case, 7. It's not 100. So there's like a bit system behind it, because every variable has its own capability of storing different bytes and bits. And this is because right here we have not 100. We have right here 7. And the other thing also we can do right here, so there are like different things, like we can also get the bit counts, 2 bytes, and so on. We do not really have to understand those methods because they're really not that important, because numbers are only for storing some values, making some math tasks, evaluations, and some tasks. So they're not really that important, but I'm just still covering you with them. So what I want to still show you is, for example, if you have like a number like this. So a number like 1000 stored in a string. How we can now get it? So for example, if I write now total equals to, let's say, number 1 plus 10. So you maybe now think, okay, I will now get 1010. False, because we will now get an error which says type error can only concatenate string, not int to string. So, but why? Because right here, as already explained in some lectures, this right here is stored in the variable as a string. So right here, this is stored as a string. This is because we're using single, or in this case, double quotes. And right here, what we want to do, we want to change the type from string to int again to be successfully able to work with them as they were integers. So what we can do, either we go right here and write, for example, int, and then in the brackets, but the best way we can do it to go right in here, write int, and then put brackets between the value, and then if you run this again, you can now successfully see right here we did nothing. We just added to the function right here, which is called int, and right here we changed the data type from string to a whole integer to be successfully able to work with it. The same, for example, if we're working with 3.5, of course this makes not a big sense, because we will be able without using this function, because you can see what will now happen. You can see we get 13, but why? Because right here, when we use this number on a float, it will automatically replace the last number or round it up. For example, if I say like this one right there, you will see what will happen. Yeah, I get still 13 because it will just round down, or in this case, remove the whole point number. So point, and then the after thing, it will just remove when I'm changing the data type from float to int. And the same thing, for example, if I change like a float, or sorry, remove this, you will successfully see. So this is also very important. So keep knowing that when you change the data type from a float to an int, it will remove the point number, so it will just be rounded down to a whole number, so the nearest the rounded down number. And right here we then have no longer, so just keep imagining that you can follow up, or you can create tasks with, so you can add, for example, a whole integer to float. So for example, if you want to write 3.5 or 3.5 plus 10. This would work, so you do not really have to cast it or change the type to an integer, because it will still work. This is just for strings, because the strings are in a string, and we cannot just work with strings and integers together. This is because we're having those changing of type. But all in all, you can now see what we can also do with numbers. So they're also very cool in using them in Python programming. And I will see you in the next lecture, where we'll still talk about booleans and still learn about Python programming. So yeah, see you in the next lecture. Bye. Okay, so hello, welcome to another lecture in this course, where I want to quickly exactly show you how you can exactly, or what exactly a function in Python programming exactly is. So we already covered the different things like statements and loops and logical operators and so on, but we have never covered yet the functions in Python programming. And they are really essential in working with Python programming, because in every, or literally in every programming language, there are functions which help you to improve your code. And this is exactly what I wanted to teach you right now. So I just want to quickly explain you what exactly functions are. So just a function explanation, and later on I will exactly show you in the next few lectures exactly the usage, how you can return some values and so on. So yeah, let's start. So first of all, what exactly a function is. So you can translate a function as a holding project. So what a function does is, for example, we have like a program. So I can quickly write something like if, let's say we have a variable, let's say name equals to Peter, like this. And then we want to, for example, check if name equals to Peter, something like this. And then like print out yes, or yes, like this. So, and then we can maybe add also an else, but this is not what we really cover right now. So, and you can see that this is right here. So, and what if we want to check multiple times if the value of a name or value of a variable is equal to Peter? Then we could create a function called, or it doesn't matter what it's called, but you would create a function which has the functionality to check if a variable which you can apply to the function, check if the value inside is Peter. So the same thing. For example, you're creating a game like a snake game. So I think everyone of you played like a JavaScript or a snake game or a Google snake game, or any game which has a high score at the top left or right corner. So it looks like there you have a high score, you need to collect coins, maybe some vegetables, fruits, or Fruit Ninja also. So every game has a high score. So I think you already know what a high score is and how a high score basically works. So, and for example, we create like in Python, of course, Python is not the best programming language for a game, but just imagine we're creating a snake game. And I think you know that in a snake, you'll have this little snake which is running through the field, and you need to collect fruits and vegetables. So in my case, we need to collect apples or bananas, like on Google Snake. So, and what we want to do basically is we want to have a function where we can check how many apples the snake has collected, or the user has collected. Then we could create like a function which says get apples. So the main translation of a function is that the function can hold a code you can use multiple times. So you just create once a function with the name, for example, get apples, and add the functionality to it. So it's like an if statement you can use multiple times. And then you can use this function as much as you want in your code. So you can maybe use it 100 times, 10 times, 1 time, 2 times, and so on. Or the same thing, for example, you have like an unformatted date, like you have, I don't know, let's say we have the date of 2021, then we got April, maybe April, and then the, I don't know, let's say 01. And you wanted to have something like this right here. So we want to have it like April. And then we want to have like, I don't know, just a date formation system, which we can also do or handle with functions, because then we can write, for example, a function, then we can insert the value of it, and then we can start using the function multiple times. For example, we're creating like a date system or a time system or anything like this, where we work in our program with times and datas. And this is a really cool function. So this is what we will exactly learn now in the next few lectures. So exactly the usage, the structure, how to return values, how to add parameters and keyword arguments to your function, and then work with it and be able to work with them in your future programs, because they're very cool and very efficient, and you can create your own custom ones with their own unique functionality. All this sounds weird and maybe a little bit also confusing, but don't worry, when you go through this whole section, you will understand step by step what I exactly mean by this. And after this section, I promise you, you will be successfully able to create your own custom functions in Python programming. And if not, there's still the active support section. So if you got any questions about it, for example, you're hanging around and stuck with any error, just message me on the active support menu on Udemy, or create a Q&A section, something like this, and there I will answer your questions. Okay, so yeah, but this was exactly what I wanted to talk with you about. I just wanted to quickly show you what exactly function is, or explain what a function exactly is, and for what do we use it, and how it exactly works. And in the next lecture, you will exactly learn the usage and the structure of it, so you can successfully start creating your own custom unique functions in Python programming. So in this case, I will see you in the next lecture, where we'll continue to work on how to exactly create our own custom function in Python. So yeah, see you in the next lecture. Bye. Okay, so hello, welcome to another lecture in this course where we'll quickly exactly show you how to exactly or what exactly the structure of a function in Python exactly is. So yeah, let's start. So right here what we have, I will quickly go some lines down. So what we have is we have the def thing. So this is basically the beginning of each function in Python, because this signifies, okay, Python right here, I'm starting right here a new function. So then what follows is the name. So basically the name of our functions, because we have to give our name a name, because then we're able to use it, because every function has its or should have its unique function, and with this it's basically like a unique ID we can use to call this function. So but it's basically a name to use, so recognize, okay, this and this method is this one, and this function is this one. So before we start or continue, I would just want to say that you should always use unique names, and you should always use a specified name. So for example, if your function is for date formatting, then call it date format and so, or something like this. Or if you, I don't know, want to create like a get score I don't know function, and call it get underscore score or something like this. So exactly every time know, okay, this without reading through the whole function code, you just know exactly, okay, this function does this and this by the name. This is always a good idea. So but for the example, I will just call it name, because there's not much to talk about by the names right now. Then we put the brackets right here, because right here we can then put like arguments and parameters, but this we will cover later on. But here you can just say that we got some parameters, like for example a variable, like we already used numbers or not numeric data types, variables, the structure, the usage of a variable, and already showed you exactly how variables are working. And this is the same here, so we can use local variables, or I will call them local, so they act like local variables in this function, so we can give the function parameters or arguments to use it in the function. I know this sounds weird, but when we go to parameters, you will successfully understand what I mean by this. But right now we just talk about the structure. This is because I'm also showing the parameters which can be applied to the function. So what we do right here, let's just call a parameter or add a parameter of number. So I would just call it parameters, so we exactly know that right here we use parameters, so it is parameters. So, and at the end always a finishing, which is basically a double point or this little symbol right here, which tells Python, okay, right here my function is or the line of creating a function is complete. So right here I'm now able to write in here. And what we do basically in here goes our code. So this is basically, this was false. Here basically goes our code. So for example, if we have like right here again also, so this is basically how it works. So what we have, or you can just quickly remove and do something in here, so like prints, and then let's put a number, so let's say prints 100. So this is what it basically does. So as mentioned already, what a function in Python consists out of is the dev thing right here, so the keyword which tells Python right here, at this line I'm starting a function, or I want to create a function, then the name follows. I can quickly also write this out. Call keyword dev, then we got this little df right here, then we got the name, then we got the brackets, and in here we got basically the parameters, which are basically optional for using them. So and at the end the double point, and then the code follows right here. So this is basically how the function is or structured in Python. So as already explained, let me quickly tell you again. So this is basically the beginning of the function. So it starts with this little keyword to tell Python, okay, right here this line I'm starting a new function. Then it follows the name, as already explained. Please exact follow the name rules I've talked about, so you can exactly specify or basically sort every single function into a specific topic and job, because every like function should do its own job or a unique function. So then we got the parameters, which are in those brackets right here. Then it ends up with the symbol to tell, okay, right here now I'm done with writing the main function code line, and then I can continue with writing the basic or the main function of the function down below. So you can see it has a very easy or an understandable structure. And now what we'll do, you already know what exactly a function is, how it works, and basically the structure already. And now you should exactly be able to follow me in the next lecture, where we'll talk about the usage of a function. So we'll exactly talk about the usage, then about parameters, then about local variables, keyword arguments, and about returning values in methods or also in functions. So stay tuned for this, and I will see you in the next lecture where we'll continue this work on how to exactly learn programming with Python. So yeah, see you in the next lecture. Bye. Okay, so hello and welcome to another lecture in this course where we'll quickly exactly explain you how to exactly make usage of the structure exactly of a function. So in the last lecture, you already exactly learned what exactly a function exactly is and how you can work with it. So basically what it provides you, what it gives you, what the capabilities are, what the main functionality of it is, and basically how it all works together. So, and now we want to use that knowledge which you have collected in the last lecture to now create our own custom functions. So first of all, let's make our own custom program like here. So maybe we will write our own custom program, which is basically about the print thing. So for example, we want to write like print hello user. So for example, we create like a little user program and we want to quickly run this. So for example, as you can hello right here. So, but in the next line, we then write like, I don't know, print hello, no, not hello. I don't know. Let's say, are you okay? For example, so you don't really have to understand the logical about this, so the logic about it, why we have right here hello user and hello and here are you okay. So what we want to do, so you can see that these two lines of code have a separated topic. So the first one is greeting a user or say hello to user, and the other is asking if everything hello, so asking a question. And they have both two different like tasks to do. So, and of course we can start making in every line an if statement and much more. So, but there we can use functions. For example, you want to format a string. So just make sure. So for example, you have like a string, a date, let's say a date. So, and this date is, I don't know, really weird. Like say 2021 minus, I don't know, slash, let's say, I don't know, 04 slash 01, and you want to completely, so this is not the normal template you would use, this is just really weird, so you want to format it. So, and to not format it every time and write again format, you can create like a format function. So, and what it basically does, so a function can take or can store, so it's basically a container for a code. So you can just write the code once, and then after this you can use this function name every time you want. So you have once written the code and the function is available at any time. So what does it mean? So for example, we want to greet a user. Let's say we can either write print, but we want to greet or say hello to user multiple times in our code. Of course, we can every time write print and then this and then hello user. But what we can also do is we can save the code in a container, which is basically our function as you've learned in the last lecture, and write def. So def is basically the beginning of each function. So this makes Python recognize, okay, right here, I am starting a function which I want to name right now. So as you already know, you're also naming variables, and right now we want to name our function. So I would recommend you to name your function always to the functionality of it. So for example, if the function should format the date, call it format underscore date or formatter or something like this, or string formatter or date formatter, something like this. And if you want to, for example, say hello to a user, call it greet user, or like in this case, let's say I don't know, say, or we can just call it say underscore hello. So, and then in the end, you put those brackets, and then at the end to signify to or tell Python, okay, right here, this is the exact Python, function structure I want. You can just signalize Python, okay, right here, please stop, please make right here the stop of the function. So here's the ending of my function. So yeah, perfectly. Then I can go down and you can automatically see, like in the if statement section, it automatically makes for you, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, let's say 4 spaces. So when you press tab, it does basically the same. So, and this basically means right here, we're currently developing or writing code in our function say hello. So we're not writing outside, we're writing in our say hello function basically. So, and now let's put right here print hello world. So not hello world, hello user. This is better, I think. So, but if I now run this little function, you can see nothing happens. So we have our code, but nothing happens. This is because we have to call our function. And this is the coolest thing. So now we can every time call our function as we want. So we have to just write the exact name, and then at the end put those little brackets right here. And then you can see, I can also put it like this, or like this, it doesn't matter what it says. Reformat the file. Yeah, we do not have to really. So right here we have now the say hello function successfully executed right here. So if we now run our code again, you will now successfully see that we get hello user displayed in our console. And we can use it how often we want. So we can write hello, say hello again, and so on. And now we should get it 3 times, as you can see successfully. So we can do also something different. We can just call, I don't know, def, I don't know, let's say call h. So let's quickly make this. So we can write like def call or get h. I don't know, get underscore h. Then we can, for example, get the input. So we can write age equals to input, basically input, and let's say, I don't know, basically, what is your age, for example. So, and then we can instantly pass it as a, or put the type of the return value of input to an integer, so we can easily, oh no, we don't have to, because we want to exactly use it later on. And now we can basically write print age, for example. So, and now you can see this is successfully working. And now if I quickly call the method again, I can write get underscore age. This should also work. So now run this. You can see what is your age. I write 20 or 21, 20, let's say 20. You can see what is your age, 20. So it is successfully working. But here we can also make a little space so it looks cooler, or it looks cleaner right here. And now you can see 20 is the output. So it is successfully working. We can now define for each function we create a different functionality. So we're able to put the container of the code container into the function. So we're able to supply every function. So each function has a unique function. I know this sounds weird, but we cannot just create, of course we can create a different, the same function with a different name. But what we cannot do, we can just type get age again. This would not work, because then Python would throw you an error, because it would say, if I write right here, print hello world. So maybe you can now see, yeah, as you can see, prints values to stream. So basically what you can see, we do not get an error. But if we exactly put this right here, you can see this makes no sense. Of course, we really get no error, but no one would like copy the code again. So of course you can name your function again like this, but this would make no sense, because you always call or make a unique name for your function to be able to make a unique function for the function. I know this sounds weird, but all in all, when we go to return values, parameters and arguments and more stuff with functions, you will more and more learn how exactly functions work in Python, because they're very cool. They take a lot of work for you, and they work properly together, so we can still work with it. Okay, so hopefully this little lecture helped you a little bit more for understanding the structure of a function, how to use the function, and the main usage of a function, and some basic rules of functions in Python. And I will see you in the next lecture, where we'll continue working with functions in Python programming. So yeah, see you in the next lecture. Bye. Okay, so hello, welcome to another very quick lecture in this course, where I want to quickly exactly explain you what exactly list in Python programming exactly is. So we already covered all those variables, like for example names, and then we did like something like equals to Peter, or for example a number like this one right here, so number equals to 10, or story equals to false, so false story, or a, I don't know, a decimal number, or we just call it decimal, equals to 3.5, for example. So those were the normal, how's it called, the normal data types we were using right now in all the Python. But what does this mean about lists? So we were only able to like put one value into the variable. So for example, name equals to Peter, number equals to 10, story equals to false, and decimal equals to 3.5. So, but we were not able to, for example, separate the values by a comma, and then let's write another name. So we haven't done this yet. So, but we can do this by using lists and tuples. And this is exactly what we will learn in this whole section. But let's not talk again about lists and later on about the tuples. So you can see that this is successfully working. And what I now want to talk with you about is about lists. So lists, they are able to store multiple values to be able to use the multiple values in a different way. So for example, create a list called names, like this one right here. And for example, in this list, store 4 names like Peter, Olaf, Kim, and Sarah. So those are the 4 names you want to store in a list. Of course, we can, for example, create like name 1 equals to Peter. So I can quickly, I can quickly write it. So Peter. Then another one, name 2 equals to what I said also Olaf, I think I said right here. Name 3 equals to Kim. And then another thing I think it was Sarah. Yeah, it does not really matter, but it was Sarah. So, and as you can see, those are the 4 values, and we can put this into one variable. So for example, rename those variables, so those 4 variables, into names, and then put every single value we have into one variable. And this is how a list works. So, but more about this in the next 2 lectures. We will learn about the structure and the usage of a list in Python programming. So, see you in the next lecture. Bye. Okay, so hello, welcome to another lecture in this course, where I want to quickly exactly show you how exactly the structure of a list in Python programming exactly is. So yeah, we can already start. So in the last lecture, you already learned what exactly a list is and for what we exactly need it, and yeah, just what it is all about in Python programming, because this is a very important step in going into Python programming. And yeah, now I will quickly show you the structure of a list, so we can start in the next lecture talking about the usage about a list. So we can start using a list and creating lists and using all the functions and modules and apply all the functions we need to work with this list. So let's start. So first of all, what we got is the variable. So we already talked about variables a lot, and the first thing is we always store something in variables, because we can of course create a list like this. So we first of all, a list is always in those block brackets right here, and in there we insert our values. So either in string value, in boolean value, an integer value, or float value. So every data type we can apply a value into it. So, but of course we can now create a list. Like we can create a list with 3 values. Let's say 1, 1, and 1. Of course this doesn't make any sense, because you would not put 3 times the same values in a list, but this is just an example. So we got those block brackets, and right here we got every value separated by a comma. This space is just optional. I'm just doing this so I have a better overview of the code or of the list, but you can just make no space or not. This will not affect the code, but for me it just looks better if you have a little space bar between it. So, and as now we're not able to work with the list, because right now we're just like able to do nothing with the list, because the list is just static, so we cannot do with the list. So let's now make it so we can do something with the list, and this is where we use variables again. So as you already learned, we have always a variable which is able to store things, and in this case we're creating a variable. I will call it lists, or I will just call it values. I don't know, it doesn't matter. I will call it values, and I said values equal to the list we have right here, so to the values we have there. So, and now we can start using values. So this is exactly what the structure exactly of a list is. So what we have the variable name. Of course, the variable name is optional, so we do not have to use it. But if you want to use and interact with your list, you have to specify a variable name, because without the list or the variable list, so the variable for the list, we're not able to work with the list. So what we have is first of all the variable name, so I can just quickly write it out. So variable, I'll just call it variable, and then equals, and then in those block brackets right here we have, oh, this is the wrong, I'm very sorry for this, and then in here we have the values, either in string value, an integer data type, a float data type, or a boolean data type. It does not matter. So we can use in here, for example, true and false. Of course, no one will really do a list or make a list with different true and false values, but some people do. This is because I'm showing you this, so you can use any data type. I can also use 2.4, 2.4, sorry, 1.3, 1.0, 10.22. Something like this. So everything works, every data type, so a string. Also for a string, you already know, for the variable rules, so for the data type rules, we always use brackets, or so single or double quotes. In my case, you already know, I like to use double quotes, but the most popular thing you do in Python programming is to use single quotes. So now we can write text in here, and then another one, let's say text, and this is how you can now use strings, floats, integers, and booleans in lists of Python. Okay, so hopefully this lecture helped you a little bit more for understanding what exactly the structure of a list in Python exactly is, and I will see you in the next lecture where we'll start making usage of all the knowledge you have collected over the past 2 lectures. So yeah, see you in the next lecture. Bye. Okay, so hello, welcome to another lecture in this course where I want to quickly talk with you about the lists, or about lists in Python programming. So we already covered about, or we already talked about the usage and the structure of a list and what exactly the list is and for what do we exactly use it. And now I want to talk with you about the usage and how you can basically use it. So this is exactly what I want to talk with you about in this lecture. So let's start. So let's first of all create a little list for names. So for example, we have like names as already said, let's create a list of names. Let's say the first name is going to be John, the second is going to be, oh, what's that? I'm sorry for this. The second one is going to be my own, so Pascal. Then the next one is going to be like Peter. Then the next is going to be Kim. The next is going to be, I don't know, let's say Lily. And the last one is going to be like Sarah. So we do have a list. So, and what we do now, we can easily print the list out and have all values applied into our console. So you can see if I write now print and then names in brackets, you can see what will happen. We get the exact list we've defined. So you can see we get John, Pascal, Peter, Kim, Lily, and Sarah inside of those squared brackets. And every value also has those single quotes right here. Of course, it does not matter, as already explained in the beginning of this course. It does not matter if you use for a string a single or double quote, but the most popularity thing you use, or the most popular quote you use for strings is, or text is, a single quote. So those are the most, as already said, the most popular one, but I still like to use those double quotes. But all in all, I would recommend to use the single quotes, because when you want to fully start out with Python, the most people are using this one, so this is the better usage. So, as you can see, we can print out the whole list, but what if we want to print, for example, only Peter out? And you can see, I think we've never talked really about indexes, but I think I've already mentioned indexes in one of those lectures. Like in any lecture, I for sure talked about indexes. So, but what if I want to print out the first value? No, let's say the second value. This is a better example. So, the most people, of course, first of all, we can do it like this. So we use the brackets right here, so the square brackets, and right here we now define the index, as it already says. When I maybe press, you can see, values object, it asks for an index. So the index could be any value of here, so we want to print out. So, and of course, I want to print out this value right here, so the second. All of you should think right now, okay, then I should put a 2 in there. So, but if I run this, you can successfully see that I get Peter. But why? Because this is the second value. Yes, but indexes work a little bit different. So in this case, this is the first index, but it's indicated as in 0. This is the second index, but it's indicated as this first index, and so on. So it always starts with 0. So this is exactly how it works. So we have now 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 values, but we start at 0. So if I want to print out the second value, I have always to define a value lower. Or the same thing when I want to make the first value, which is 0, because as already explained, the index you use always starts with 0. So I can always use 5, as you can see. But if I use a 6, it either gives me an error, or that should give, an error, list index out of range, which means the index that we're specified in the list you want to use is not there, so it's not specified, and Python cannot do anything with it. So, but what, for example, if you want to start, like, get all the values from Peter till Kim till, so we want to cut out this one. So what we can do, we can define the index where we want to start, and then we can define this symbol right here, so the double point, and then you can see what will happen. We get Peter, Kim, Lily, and Sarah, and this got basically cut off. So we start right here, so this little double point signifies, okay, please start at this index and then go on till the end. Hopefully this makes sense. So what we do, as already explained, right here we define the index we want to start, and if we had a double point, it will just go on and cut off the values that were before this index. So, and if we remove this again, it will just print out the index we've specified. In this case, it's the second one, which in this case is the third value of our list, in this case Peter. So of course we can make a lot of lists. So for example, if I write names, for example, if I want to change a specified value, I can first of all also make a clear. So I can write names.clear, which clears the whole list. So for example, right here, you can see when I write right here, the names right here, and then in the next one I write critical names.clear, and then I write names.clear, and right here I can then put in the names in here, and then you can successfully see what will happen. So if I run this, you can see the first value which is getting printed out is our names list, and you can see print in brackets, which means names. So the list is getting printed out into our console, and right here we clear the whole list, and then the list is empty, as you know, and then we can declare the list new. So we can start declaring it new. So the first value is going to be Peter, and then the second is going to be Madison. Just for learning purposes, I will just put some values so you can exactly see what I mean in using those lists. As you can see, it is successfully working. So then we can continue. So we can write name start, and you can see there insert, remove, sort, copy, count, index, clear, and so on. So we can, for example, insert a new value. So we can, as you can see, define the index and then the object. For example, I want to replace or insert for the second index, so for the third value, Madison. And then print this out. So print and the names, you will successfully see what will happen. So if I run this really quickly, you can see John, Pascal, Madison. So we inserted for the second index right here, which is this one. So the third value, Madison, which means that we replaced Peter with Madison. We can do this the same with, for example, Olaf. As you can see, this will work the same. You can see, then we can also remove values, like either we can see remove the value, or can we also specify an index. In my case, I will specify only the value. You can see Pascal, Peter, Kim, Lily, and Sarah, and before we remove the value John, so John is no longer available in this list. So there are many different things we can do. We can also get the length, you can split it, we can get values out of it, we can run with it, we can make changes to it, we can just basically work with the whole list very efficient in Python programming. And this is really cool because we can do the same. For example, if we have numbers, we can do the same. So we can start adding numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then the last number is going to be 10, and we can do the same. So we can just print out numbers, and as always, those numbers have still indexes, so we do not have, this is not the first value, this is the first index, which in this case indicates the value or the index 0. So what you can all in all see, we can create a list of the data type float, of integers, of strings, of booleans. It doesn't matter, you can create any type of list with any different data type, and this is how this works. So you can clear lists, you can insert into lists, you can remove from lists, you can specify indexes, you can get a specific value of the list by using indexes, and much more. And there are also much more ways, but all in all, this is just a basic understanding of lists, and we will start using them when we go over to the folder. We will also loop through a list and be able to work with the list a little bit more. So, but hopefully this little lecture helped you a little bit more for understanding how exactly you can make usage of a list in Python programming. And I will see you in the next lecture where we will start learning programming with Python. So, see you in the next lecture. Bye. Okay, so hello, welcome to another very quick lecture in this course where I want to quickly talk with you about tuples in Python programming. So we already learned about lists, so how they exactly work. So for example, we have like a list of numbers, then we put it like this, and then we can store like a number from 1 to 10 inside of our list right here. So, and we can do the same with tuples, but there's a little different, what you will learn in the next 2 lectures. So we will exactly talk about the syntax, structure, and the main usage of a tuple. There act like the same, but for example, we learned that we can do a lot of things with numbers. So for example, if I put numbers dot, you can see I can remove values, insert values, pop values, copy values, count, sort, append values, clear every value, get the index of a value, extend over value, extend the list. So there are multiple values or multiple functionalities I can improve my list in Python programming. So, but what I can now do is very easy and very efficient. So I can start creating tuples. So I know we will talk more about the structure in the next lecture, but I can quickly show you something. So in case we want to create a tuple, we just replace the block brackets to just normal brackets. So it looks like a half of a circle. So just the normal brackets and parentheses. So no longer these one, just those ones here. So, and this is no tuple. So this is originally no tuple, and you can automatically see what has changed. So if I now type numbers in this case, that you can successfully see there are only 2 methods, which are count and index. So, but it really acts like the same. So we can still get values from using indexes. We can still, do things with it, but we are no longer to apply values to it. Once our tuple is successfully been reached out right here, we're no longer able to add values in there. So we're not able to change values, remove values. We can only change and remove values while in the same line. So now I can change values, of course, but I cannot go like 1 line down and then just write numbers.insert. This is not possible for tuples. And this is a cool feature about tuples, because when we use tuples, they're not just affectable, so we cannot affect them in the code. So we just static. We cannot change them. They're not dynamic, like for example lists or that directories we will also learn about. They're just static, so they cannot be changed during the code. They can only be changed by going into the same line where we've initialized and declared the tuple, and there we can change everything. But what is not exactly a tuple? I cannot really talk with you more about tuples because it's like kind of a list, it just acts a little bit different, but more about the rules you will exactly learn in the next 2 lectures. So stay tuned for this, but just before ending up this lecture, I just wanted to say the main difference between the list and the list and the tuple is that we can only define the values while being in the line where we've declared and initialized it. So we're no longer possible to change value with this, but more you will learn later on. But the tuple is like a normal list, so we can store multiple values in there, either a string, a float, an integer, or a boolean. It does not really matter. So we can put any data type we want or any value into the list we want. It is, or we can get values by indexes. We can loop through it and much more. But more about this you will learn in the next 2 to 3 lectures in this whole section. But this being said, see you in the next lecture. Bye. Okay, so hello, welcome to another lecture in this course where I want to quickly talk with you about the structure of a tuple. So in the last lecture we already talked about the what exactly a tuple exactly is. So I explained to you everything you need to know about tuples, so what they exactly do, the rules, what they do in Python programming, for what do you need them, and now I want to exactly talk with you about the structure so we can use the knowledge we've collecting over this and the last lecture to be successfully able to succeed in the next lecture where we'll start making usage of tuples. So we already learned in this section about lists. So what exactly a list is, what exactly a list does, what exactly the structure of a list is, and the explanation about a list. And then I'm exactly putting tuples and lists into the same section because they're pretty much the same, just there's a main difference and a structure difference. So you can structure them different, and there's a very high difference which you will learn in the next lecture. But maybe already I will talk about it in this lecture, but the main priority in this lecture is about working with the structure of a tuple. So yeah, let's start. So you already know that we, for example, if you want to create like a list, we use names and then those block brackets right here, and here we can then define Peter, for example, not liter, Peter, sorry, Olaf, and so on. So this is for example, oh, I'm very sorry for this. For example, in this case, how we can work with it. So we got Peter and Olaf. This is a normal list. We can start working with it and so on. So this is the structure of a list. So, but as always, you can use every single data type. So a string, you can use an integer, you can use a float, and you can use a boolean in a tuple. So it does not really matter which data type you're using in the tuple. It does really not depend on which data type you can use. You can literally use any available data type in Python programming. So, but how does the tuple exactly work? So for example, I want to create a names list in the tuple. So what I do, I write names, and instead of using the block brackets, I use just the normal parentheses, or in this case, the normal brackets, which like a half of a circle. So I can now start defining the values. So for example, Peter, then I can write like Olaf, maybe can already add Kim, maybe can Sarah, also maybe Madison. And yeah, no, I think that's enough. So right here, you can see it is successfully working. So we got now the names, then equals, and then we got in here the values we need. So the main difference is just, it has pretty much the same structure and the same rules. Just the main difference is the how you use the brackets. So for the list, you use block brackets, and for the tuples, you use those normal brackets, which everyone knows from using on their keyboard. So yeah, this is the main difference, and this is exactly the structure difference of those lists and tuples, and just the structure of the tuple. And I will see you in the next lecture where we'll start talking about the usage about tuples and exactly talk about the main difference between tuples and lists in Python programming. So in this case, I will see you in the next lecture where we'll start talking about the usage of a tuple. So yeah, see you in the next lecture. Bye. Okay, so hello, welcome to another lecture in this course where I want to quickly exactly show you how to exactly make usage of the tuples in Python programming. So in the last two lectures, we already learned about the structure and what exactly a tuple in Python programming exactly is. And now I want to start with you making usage of it. So start working with it, start making usage of it and all the rules and yeah, everything what you need to know about the tuple. So let's start. So we already learned about lists, so whole like structure, what exactly a list is, and so on. So and as you can see, for example, if I now write numbers, so let's say I want to create a list out of numbers, or I will just write values. So values. So the thing we did for creating a list is we did this right here, and in here we inserted the values. So sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go to 5. This is better. So, and this is no list. So we can exactly format the list. So we can write remove, insert, pop, append, clear, extend, index, reverse, count, copy, pop, and so on. So this is how the list works. We already learned about this. So, but if we want now to change the list to a tuple, we just replace the block brackets to normal brackets. So those little half brackets of a circle. So parentheses. So and if I now write values dot, you can see there are only two methods available. So the count method basically counts through it and we can get a value specified, and the index value can give us the index from the start to stop. So, but you can now see if I write, for example, print and then write values out, you will see what will happen. So, I will still get the values I have defined right there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is working. So, but when I, for example, want to change right here, so for example, you maybe already guessed, for example, in the lecture about lists, we did something like remove and insert and all the append methods and all we talked about. So there we were able to change the values, but the tuples are not touchable, so you cannot touch them, you cannot change the value once it has been declared and initialized. So once the tuple has been declared and initialized, it cannot be changed again. So you cannot change the value except you go right to the line where the tuple is located and change the values, for example here. So instead of 2 I will put 5, or I put 6. This is how you can change the values, the only way of changing values. So for example, if you have a list, you can go lines above and then you can clear the list, you can insert into the list, you can do different things with the list. But the tuple you can only change by going into the line you have initialized and declared the tuple, and there you can change the value. So it is unchangeable, clearly and clear. So, but what we can do is, we can also do it the same with lists. So what we can do, we can print out a specific value. So we can again use those block brackets and, for example, specify the second or the first index. This will give us the second value, so the second value in this case. Why? Because we're handling with indexes. In this case, this should be the value 2 or the number 2. As you will see, it is successfully working. We can also start using the fourth index, which in this case is 5, because as you know, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So, but again, we should get an error when we use another index which is higher than the range of the tuple, which we do. So now you think guessed off, or maybe you think, okay, but what if I write like values and then want to change, for example, the second index? So, and then I write like equals to, let's say 6 or 5. So, and now you think that the second index, so 1, 0, 1, 2, right here. So, oh, sorry, this value right here should be changed to. Why is it doing this? I'm very sorry for this. You maybe think that this will be changed now to 5, but if I run this, you will see what will happen. Tuple object does not support item assignment. As already said, this is untouchable. We cannot change the tuple during our code. We cannot clear it, we cannot insert it to the tuple. We can do pretty much nothing except getting some values, getting a separated value by using or specifying an index. The only way of changing it or changing values in the tuple is by going into the line where we declared and initialized the tuple, and there we can change the values. Of course, you can use tuples for strings, so we can, for example, write example 1, example 2, and example 4. So you can use, let me quickly remove this line of code because this is just useless. So we can use text in there, we can use booleans in there, we can use floats in there, so you can see floats is also working. We can use 3.4, 0.1, and so on. So we can use floats, integers, strings, and booleans. There's no problem of using all those data types. But as I already explained, the main difference between those two types of lists, or between the tuple and the list, is that you can change the list during the code. So you can clear it, insert to it, append with it, remove, clear, change values, use indexes, and much more. But the tuple is untouchable basically, so you can only go into the line where if you do initialize and declared, and there you can define and change some values. So, and this is also why you should always, or not always, but in most cases you should use lists only if you want to. For example, I can show you pretty much a cool example. So for example, if you create like coordinates for a program or a game, you most of the time then people use tuples because they're unchangeable and you cannot touch them really in the code. So they write like, I don't know, for an x and epsilon coordinate, I write 150. So those are my coordinates. This is really cool because there we can get the coordinates from. So this is just an example. You don't really have to use it for coordinates, but we cannot accidentally change the coordinates in the code by clearing, inserting, and anything of this. But for example, if you create a list, we can change the values in it, which is not that cool. So if you want to make sure that you do not change or touch the values in the tuple during the code or in the list or something you have, then change the type from a list into a tuple. But in the most cases, people still or only use lists because they're changeable. You can change them during the code. So the only case is working with tuples is when you want to create lists which are untouchable. So you cannot change the values accidentally and then you break the code. So just remember, just use them when you do not want to have them changed. And the main difference between them is already explained, and the structure of them is just as already explained. The one is using brackets and the other one is using square brackets. So this is everything about the usage of tuples. Hopefully this lecture helped you a little bit more of understanding how they exactly work. And I will see you in the next lecture where we will still cover how to exactly learn programming in Python. So see you in the next lecture. Bye. Okay, so you've now seen a free preview of the whole course that I offer on Udemy. So if you liked it and you think you want to continue with this and learn the whole basics and fundamentals of Python programming, then I can really recommend you to enroll into my course, which is available on Udemy, as you can currently see right here. So you can see the code with 7 total hours, 8 articles, full-time live access. You can see about 100 lectures spread over to 17 sections, and you can see we really cover everything. So we go from the basics to the statement and loops, which we have not covered in this free preview yet, but later on in the in the course, you will also learn about dictionaries, object-oriented programming in Python, modules, handling with exceptions, and much more. So you will literally learn everything you need to know to become a job ready for Python programming. And also, if you want to enroll into the course, I got a coupon code for you down below, linked in the video description. So if you like this little free preview and you think you want to thank me, or you want to learn Python further, then I can really recommend you to enroll into my course and check it out. Don't worry, you got a 30-day money back guarantee. So if you do not like the course or think the course is trash, then you can get your full money back and charge back everything and get a full refund over your money. But right now, as I would explain, there's a huge coupon code which I can apply to, so an 86% discount, as you can see right here. So it is a really cool coupon code, and it lasts for the next 30 days. So if you're interested, I recommend you to enroll now and don't wait. But now, thanks for basically watching this free preview, and maybe I will see you in my course. Bye.